Since 1983, FAME has helped business and education work for Maine. Contact the authority, the Finance Authority of Maine.
Welcome. This is our Afterthoughts segment where we keep our guests around from our original broadcast show to spend a little more time only on the web, where we can ask some more questions, follow up on things we talked about on the show, and ask some other questions as well. With us today we have Robert Clark. He's the president of Husson University. Welcome. Thanks for sticking around. We covered a couple of good quick sessions, segments on the show, and wanted to dig a little bit deeper on a couple things. We were talking during the break too about some things that were really interesting, I thought. First of all, I want to start off with Husson is one of the most inexpensive private universities in New England. How do you do that? And then how will you be able to maintain that cost containment?
We have exceptional employees, very skilled, well adapted to being entrepreneurial and innovative in what they do, and it allows us to be kind of fleet of foot, not take on great expenditures moving forward, and making sure that we're able to deliver high quality education.
Do you think you're leaner and meaner than other higher ed institutions?
We are clearly leaner than other institutions that I've worked at.
At the administrative level?
At the administrative level, and we're working on, what is the balance that we need to have as an institution, and to deliver that high quality academic experience.
I get the feeling you look a lot of spreadsheets.
The good things to read when you're the president.
Exactly. We were talking earlier too about that experiential learning piece, and we also kind of during the break we were talking about how do we get businesses, the business community, even more directly connected with higher ed and vice versa, and to really listen to them. What's your thinking about that? How can you do that to get businesses involved to help you design that new workforce training?
Well, I certainly think listening and being engaged with the business community allows us as an institution to understand what their evolving needs are, even as we help them to formulate answers to those. Creating boards of visitors and advisors to come onto the campus to evaluate and sort of vet our curriculum changes, to know, are we meeting the targeted goals that they would set for themselves? We hear back from alumni that have gone out and achieved jobs. How well did the program equip me for the future? And the other side of it is that we don't stay in the silo of an academic institution. I spend a good portion of my week out and about, seeing what's going on, visiting institutions, organizations, so that I myself can carry back some of that energy of what do we need to be doing.
Okay. Distance learning, is that a part of your plans for the future? And also, I guess the question that's related to that too is, what about those other programs, the Phoenix universities out there? Is that going to change the way that we consume higher ed?
I think I like to think in terms of technology-assisted learning. And distance learning, when I was coming up through education, received kind of a bad rap. You sat and watched a tape. It was not interactive. But with technology today, we're able to have interaction between students at our remote site in Calais and in our site in Bangor, folks in Presque Isle, and et cetera. So it creates a whole new dynamic of higher education, technology-assisted learning versus, okay, I just went in and I vetted a tape.
But will it ever totally replace live classroom?
I certainly wouldn't advocate for that, because I think the dimension of the Socratic investigation that occurs in the class, the environment of learning that we create, has so much value in helping students develop their skill sets for the future.
Okay. During the broadcast program, we talked about competitors, and you were very diplomatic about the university system and those kinds of things. And I assume you will be again. But this is just on the web, so you can say other stuff. They're not listening. But seriously, the University of Maine system they're really looking at all of their programs, figuring out that they have huge deficit problems. They're making changes, some significant changes. In terms of a business model, does that present opportunities, strategic opportunities for you all?
It certainly gives us an opportunity to say, what role should Husson play in the higher education landscape that it does not currently play? It allows us to know where we can extend our own franchise in terms of healthcare professions, for example, finding opportunities for programs that might not be able to be cost effective at what we call higher infrastructure costs. And so we will, as a university, take good prospecting there. I think also establishing collaborative relationships, you know, knowing that we have a role to play in changing. And the one good notion I have for higher education in Maine, whether you're public or private, we all are in the business of transforming student lives.
Yeah, true, true. You mentioned healthcare 3 or 4 times, I think, during the course of our interviews. So what are your plans for that? I mean, University of New England has certainly, they've moved aggressively in that market. Obviously, they have the medical school, the osteopathic medical school, an allied healthcare kind of group as well, and now the pharmacy school, and you too are in the pharmacy business. So tell us more about your thinking about healthcare education.
Well, I certainly know that Maine, having the oldest average aged population in the country, will see a transition in its need for additional healthcare providers in the future. The notion of nurse practitioners, the role that they may play. We have programs, masters in nursing and et cetera, that can help meet some of those critical gap needs in our population. The role behind pharmacy, the evolving nature of pharmacy as a vocation, and occupational therapy and also physical therapy. All of those are critical elements in a healthcare system. I think sometimes people think of, well, Husson's a business university, and yet it is, but it has a broader franchise. We have probably over 1,000 students in healthcare professions preparing for Maine's future.
A few weeks ago, I had Bill Caron, CEO of Maine Med, on the program, and I asked him, I said, does Maine need a does Maine need a medical school? I mean, another medical school, and can we have one? And he said yes and no. And yes, we need one, and no, we can't possibly afford one. Is that your thinking too?
I think yes and no is probably on my equation as well. You know, I think there's where the business modeling, what we would want to say is how can we tap into the system, and I know that in Maine, institutions have linked with Tufts, we've linked with partnerships with the University of Vermont to create slots for Maine students. You know, there may be some hybrids, you know, doing a year or 2 of medical education here in Maine in some model, and then finishing up. Who knows? And that's being collaborative and finding the best way to educate our future doctors.
Right. Final question, I think, is just geographically, and we started this, you were telling us kind of where Husson is. Are there underserved areas in terms of geography of Maine, and are you looking at that geographically as well, too?
I think at this juncture, noting that we have a campus literally that spans between Portland and Presque Isle, we are pretty, and all the way east to Eastport, we've been pretty perspective about how we can serve the needs of the state of Maine. So
good. I do have one. I always say one final question, but I always have one more. The boat school, how's that going?
Great. I was down to the boat school about a week or 2 ago. I'd encourage any of your listeners, know individuals that want that, give us a call, because that's a unique program of certification to prepare individuals.
Well, and that's an example, too, once again, of that entrepreneurial ability of Husson. Clearly, that has struggled. It was with the community college system. The state got involved a few years ago to try to, how can we keep that propped up for a while, but they couldn't quite do it. Esport's a challenge, just because of location, but I think that they're in the right hands, and it's a great facility. And so I was so happy to hear that you guys.
Well, and I see on Mainebiz today that in today's, in some of our prospecting of what are prospects in Eastport, and the fact that there may be some industry coming to that region.
That's great.
So,
that's what we need.
Strengthens the area.
Great. Okay, we're going to leave it there.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
That's it. Thanks.